Hello there, Saints and Patriots. Um, there's so much out there that I could talk about. I've decided I'm going to talk about a little bit about my own COVID experience and my experience living in Florida. Yes, yes, yes. I'm here with Governor DeSavage. Let me tell you, he's like a pit bull. I love DeSantis because he really stands his ground. And that's I'm glad we have that kind of governor here in Florida. If we had somebody like Nikki Fried, we'd be in lockdown, perpetual lockdown, and demanding that, mandating that the teachers get vaccinated and these people get vaccinated and so on and so forth. If teachers had to get vaccinated, I'd be without a job. Um, and really, one of the things DeSantis has stood up for is that there will be no mandates coming from the state. Yeah, that. Um, But one of the things DeSantis did was look at the real science, not the politicized, bastardized science of Dr. Fakey or Fraudgy, whatever you call him, and the CDC and the FDA. Yes, I went there. I went there. I go there often. Call them out. Anyhow, um, he knew and said there was going to be a spike in cases. It had happened the previous year. It seems to go through this cycle every so many months. Okay. Anyhow, um, the spike started at the start of school. Kids were having to be quarantined. Teachers were having to be quarantined. It was a hot mess. There was one week where this was like the second, third week of school, where I had a second grade class walk up to my classroom. There were six kids out of, I think, 17, 18. Six. One third of the class was there, two-thirds of the class was quarantined. Back in the spring, I had a fifth grade class with four. One of the things I think there's Norway and a couple other European countries have decided that they're doing no more lockdowns, no more mandates, all this other stuff. I think there's one that's actually doing vaccine mandates. But as far as lockdowns and mass mandates, they were done and came to the conclusion they were going to have to learn how to live with COVID, just like we live with the flu and colds. Flu season starts about now, peaks in the winter, starts disappearing as the winter ends and we enter into spring. That's the cycle every year. Except this year and last year, the flu disappeared. I'm going down a bunny trail. I'm coming back. Um, so it started to peak, and the cases are now dropping drastically. Okay, drastically. I'm seeing full classes, a few students missing here and there. Um, I had it around mid September. I lived to tell about it. Here I am. I'm talking to you now. My symptoms were moderate to mild. Um, I it was a Wednesday. Um, Sometime during the day, I started getting a headache. It just wouldn't let up. Backache, joint aches. I was miserable by the end of the day. And I cleaned up my room um, and went home, took an Advil, and put in for a sub for the first time in 2 years. Stayed home Thursday, Friday. I had a lot of nasal congestion, headache, low grade fever for about 24 hours, um, few aches and pains here and there. But really, the constant was the headache for a few days, and then the congestion would actually last beyond the headache stage, the first few days. I used the neti pot to flush that out. Um, I got my COVID test. Actually, it ended up being like 2 days after I presented symptoms because I couldn't get an appointment on Thursday. So I did it on a Friday. Had the results by Saturday morning. And I will say immediately after I got the results, I went online, found one of the monoclonal infusion clinics that DeSantis had set up throughout the state, made an appointment. Within 5 hours of getting that positive test result, I got my 2 injections in one arm, 2 injections from the other arm, and sat for an hour, made sure I didn't have any immediate side effects to this. Went home, it's all good. Had chills that night, and I was pretty much feeling better on Sunday. Um, Spent the next week home to make sure, everything was clear. It was basically a district policy that if you tested positive for COVID, that you originally it was 14 days and it cut back down to 10. And I think that's what the CDC guidelines were. Went back on the 27th and here we are. I survived it. But the one thing I had done prior to that was begin taking precautions. I started taking vitamin A and D and added C. I had actually had a cold before a few weeks before I had COVID, and I took echinacea golden seal tincture and garlic pills. Um, the first time I had done that was, oh gosh, this was like back in the 90s. Because I was getting regular sinus infections. It was like I would get a sinus infection a couple times a year, and was on antibiotics, and this is where I became allergic to penicillin and Keflex, and they had to start prescribing me the Z-Pack, and I'm not going to get to all that. Anyhow, and I think those supplements that I already been taking had helped really keep the symptoms minor. But I also knew that if I did nothing, the symptoms could worsen, which is why I moved quickly to get the monoclonal treatments. Moving on, and even in the public schools, you can see that more students are in class. So there's not as many having to quarantine. And as I said, really one of the things we need to do is learn how to live with it. And because we can't keep quarantining the kids every time they're exposed to somebody who's either has it or was exposed to somebody who has it. Because a lot of them, I would say, um, 95% of them who get quarantined don't get sick. The kid who tested positive is the one who's sick. The ones who are quarantined don't get sick. Anyhow, Florida also got a new Surgeon General and really implemented new quarantine protocols by saying that let the parents decide. If the child is exposed to COVID, the parent can decide to let them quarantine or go ahead and send them to school until they start presenting symptoms. Yeah. And I actually like that protocol. It gets kids in school, they can learn, have that consistency that they need. Anyhow, I survived COVID. I want to get tested for antibodies to make sure that what I had was COVID. Low grade fever. I don't think you get low grade fever with sinus infection. So I'm banking that it probably was or the flu. Anyhow, um, The United States is not going to move to a point where, okay, we need to learn how to live with COVID. That's not going to happen here. There are a number of places, especially where they're pushing for as many people to get vaccinated as possible, B, vaccine passports. They don't want to get back to normal, okay? This is not about beating COVID. I saw a post on Cloud Hub and it summed it up beautifully. It was a meme, and I can't quite remember how it went, but basically it was saying that the Democrats were talking about people wanting the facts and so on and so forth, and wanting the truth. It's like it's not that we wanted the truth; it's just we wish that what we were seeing wasn't true. The thought of our government turning against us is one of those things you never really would thought would happen, but that's what we see happening. You have a government that is turning against its own people. I listen to conservative radio when I'm driving my car to and from work. And I was listening to the Sean Hannity show. And he was talking about a survey of what they think is the biggest threat to Americans. And a lot more conservatives, they're saying China, the economy, and a few other things, the economy going bust and all that. And one of the things I was saying, Joe Biden administration, the federal government. Federal government is the biggest threat to Americans. And I'm going to say they're tied with the Chinese. With all this smoke and mirrors going on, if you notice the Biden administration is crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, you wouldn't think that the federal government would try to destroy this nation. But that's exactly what they're doing. They chose the most inept person that they could pick. You wouldn't think that what we see happening is deliberate. And for a while, I thought, like, nobody can be this incompetent. And escalate things as quickly as things are escalating. With inflation. And now we're running into supply shortages. Because we can't get people to work to get things here and there. We can't, the price of oil and gasoline are going up. Because, well, very briefly, we were energy independent and now we're not. And Joe Biden is begging OPEC to increase production. Moron. Then we have the border and thousands upon thousands of people coming into this country illegally every month for 9 months. And have the powers that be, Biden, I'm a Dorcas, Mayorkas, and others say, oh, the border's secure. You know why they've shut down the Fox drone? So we couldn't see that the border is not secure. We know the border is not secure. We know there's still people coming in every day illegally. I was reading an article about the Haitians and something hit me. Because the question is like, okay, considering where Haiti is, how are the Haitians getting to Mexico? How are they getting to Mexico? Don't be surprised if the Biden administration is paying their fare into Mexico is so they can come in illegally through the United States. Don't be surprised. I wouldn't put it past them. This is not conspiracy. This is no conspiracy theory. Look at the Babylon Bee satire. And when you read it, pardon my language, this shit's really happening. Some of the stuff that they satirize is really happening. This is scary, folks. Our own government betraying us. Our own government stabbing us in the back. I'm going to make a prediction that with all this that's happening and happening so rapidly, and the Biden administration doing absolutely nothing to correct this mess they have made, they're going to break this country and then turn around and say, see, capitalism doesn't work. Our democratic system, actually we're a constitutional republic, doesn't work. So now we're going to save you and put a new system in place that's going to be better than what you have. A system that, although not was perfect, worked. They broke. But then they're going to come off as saviors. We're going to come and save you now. We broke the system. They're not going to admit that they broke the system. They're going to say, it was COVID. I would bet money on it. I bet real money on it. That's how it will play out. That what we're seeing happen with the border, with inflation, with COVID, the vaccines, it's all deliberate. It's all deliberate. Even the idiots sitting in the White House, it was all deliberate to get it to this point. And I'm going to make another video about what's really at work here. We are truly in a good versus evil situation. This is biblical. Okay. I went a lot longer than I planned, but if you're one who has made Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, all I'm going to say is stay on your knees in prayer. One of the prayers I've been praying was the truth prevail and the lies fail. We the red pilled. It's like, as I told somebody the other day, it's like, yeah, I took the red pill before taking the red pill before pilling was a thing. Let me more clearly state that. I took the red pill before red pilling was a thing. I took the red pill way back in 1992. Anyhow, really, if you're a saint, you need to be on your knees praying, because only God can get us through this. Y'all stay blessed.